All Fridays come different challenges that we don't normally face during the week. And this one is no different. We're going to discuss sports and transgender. I'm going to give us 10 seconds. I'm with my colleague David Solomon, and we're going to have a very interesting conversation. See you in 10 seconds.
Hey
Okay.
everybody! Hey everybody! David Solomon here with Stuart Brisgell. It is, as he said, it is Friday. It is a freaky Friday after what we're going to talk about for today, and it's about if you guys have been watching the news at all. Once again, congratulations to the media for making something out of like this absolute, very very challenging topic about whether or not transgender athletes can compete in cisgender sports. And we'll put the politics aside for this conversation. We want to talk about the core issue. And I'm going to let my friend Stuart start us off today about why or what he believes is really the situation here.
All right. So let's first take a step back, and I think let's get the definition, right? So, a transgender people are people whose gender identify is different from the gender they were through at birth and by birth. Trans is often used as shorthand for transgender. When we're born, a doctor usually says male or female based off of the genitalia you have or don't have. So let's first understand that is the definition of transgender for this little conversation. The next bit is we're discussing transgender people in athletes. And, there is a whole host of transgender professional athletes. There's Andrea Yearwood, Chris Moises, Veronica Ivy, Castor Seymour, Cece Tefler, and these are all very well accomplished athletes. So we're not taking anything away from anyone. And the third thing I want to mention is I applaud anyone that's going to make a life-changing decision and understanding the consequences of it and finding happiness. Because you know what? I don't think most people do this for shits and giggles. I mean, these are people that are conflicted and they hang on, I'm using the word, hang on.
Stuart,
They're
Stuart,
conflicted.
Stuart, we don't,
They're,
Stuart, you're going to go, no.
When I mean they're conflicted, let me give you a definition is they were born by the doctor stating that they are a man and they feel that they are a woman. That's the conflict, right? The conflict is with material facts, right? They are factually saying they are a woman and they are been born as a man. That's a conflict, David. So let me continue on my little mini rant. So it's not the issue, right? Just to say that someone that's transgender, you need to know what a transgender person is, where does it come from, how it's defined, and we're not taking anything away from anyone that's transgender, bi, gay, male dominant, female. We're not talking about that. We're specifically talking about transgender in sports. And it's not only professional sports, but it's amateur sports, which is, I guess, the first part of my little let's talk about it. A girl born as a boy is someone that is in transgender classification, and what process they may or may not be is not known. But to take a woman and let her compete in men's sports seems to be fair on the surface, right? Because in the modern society, a man is genetically stronger than a woman. Now, hang on, women, don't get upset here. I'm not saying there are exceptions to every rule. So the definition of a modern woman and the definition of a modern man has the guy as, Arnold Schwarzenegger and the woman as, Winona Ryder, right? So let's first look at that's the common definition. These are two people that I just picked out of thin air. But now, when you take a Winona Ryder and put her into a bodybuilding competition with Arnold Schwarzenegger, there's going to be definitely differences. The testosterone that a man can produce versus the testosterone that a woman can inject, right? You're not normally going to have the same result. So a woman theoretically can compete against a man and win every time, but genetically, she is not going to have the DNA to make that Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now, where it gets funny is now you got an Arnold Schwarzenegger wanting to compete against a Winona Ryder, right? Genetically, Arnold Schwarzenegger is a mesomorph, and he took additional steroids that we know. So how in the world is it fair in any sport to have an Arnold Schwarzenegger compete against a Winona Ryder? It's physically just not fair. And so where I've got an issue, David, and where the media just sort of falls off the planet is no one is against that I'm friends with someone that wants to come and be a transgender person. Again, I applaud anyone who feels that they are not the way they should be and finds a way to resolve that matter. Whether it's someone being gay or someone that's bi or someone that is transgender. I don't care. And I don't think my colleague David really cares either, because we really don't. We're happy if you find happiness. A happy person is a productive person in society. Now, where the media has gone, because there's no real good politics to talk about, is how can we stir another pot and make one group against another group? David, that's where my rant is really about. I don't believe that a woman in sports should compete against a man in sports unless it is a league of men and women, right?
Yeah. So you brought up some. There are a couple things that I'm gonna.
A lot of things. It's a big topic. We got 50 minutes. That's 7 minutes.
It's a huge topic, and I'm going to tell you something. And I've done my homework on this one, like I usually do. And I really wanted to see.
Are you insinuating I don't do my homework?
No, I didn't say that. You actually do. You actually do. And for what we both do for a living, we got to make sure that we know what we're talking about.
Exactly.
But here's the thing, folks. One of the things that really drove me up a wall when I was doing research on this, and this has been a while since I've been following this topic, and Stuart and I have been discussing it. It's the media. It depends on where you are. If you're a liberal media, you are flat against what Stuart just said, and if you're a conservative media, you're in favor of what Stuart just said. And it's fascinating. It is exactly down that line. And they argue the same thing. And I said, okay, where are the facts? Please, where are the facts? And it really took a lot of research to find out what Stuart says, whether Stuart is right or what the statements are correct. And the facts that I've been seeing in the research is it's inconclusive. Here's the sad part.
Okay.
Here's the sad part. That what we don't know is that what is the impact in the physiology? Yes, we know about the injection of testosterone. We know all these kinds of things. And there's
natural versus synthetic.
Martina Navratilova 2 years ago argued this point. She was vilified for taking a stance because she was one of the first openly gay, tennis stars. And how dare she take a stance against this? This is so against transgender. It wasn't. She expressed her opinion, which again, in today's society, someone who expresses their opinion and is not, following the certain agendas, you get vilified. And Navratilova, with all due respect, who was in her day the greatest tennis star, knew what it's like to compete against transgender athletes. She knew it firsthand at the elite level. Folks, at the elite level, I understand, and I would actually, based on the research, I'm challenged also. What do I do here? What can we do? What's the right time frame? There's apparently a time frame that some scientists are suggesting that a transgender woman has to go through before she's there's a certain re-regulation and so on and so forth. There's all kinds of, I don't know, and I'm not a scientist. But I'm going to tell you where I'm struggling. And it is at the amateur level. Because at the amateur, at the professional level, I've seen women compete against the men.
Yep.
I've seen, golfers, tennis, the best of the best. It is hard to compete against men. I agree with what you're saying. You try to reverse that, and
Well, it's
and a
a
lot of times,
lot. Hang on a second. Women, in theory, and I believe one of my doctor friends, who's I'm not going to leave in here, have the potential of being stronger than a man.
correct.
It's just, and that is.
And more talented, and more talented. Let's just be
We're
clear.
not talking about talent. Talent is to the individual. But what I'm trying to bring up here is that the modern man and the modern woman, using two very, very polar
Yeah.
opposite body types. Arnold Schwarzenegger is a definition of our modern time of being a real strong,
No,
big guy. And Winona Ryder's a skinny twig. And, to have an Arnold go against a Winona is
no.
unfair.
But
Always,
that's but
always.
Stuart, I don't agree with what you just said, because you know what? You took an extreme example, and I'm sorry. I am sorry, but you competed and I've competed
Oh,
differently. And you know what? I want to tell you something. I'm not even that. Those are extremes, and I don't want to talk about the extremes because the percentage of the people we're talking about is small. It's
it's
not
very
like we're right, and yet
It's a
the
decimal
amount of
point. It's a
the,
decimal point
the
of
difficult
percentage.
the difficulty that I have
Mhm.
is what's a fairer playing field,
Right.
because we have the cisgender scenario. We have a male, we have a female, which a lot of people are against. And fine, you want to be against it, go fine. I really could care
It's
less,
bigotry. It's
and
just
I'll argue
another.
that
It's
point to
another
the
level of
day.
bigotry.
But
It's
the
another
point,
level of bigotry. If you just accept them for who they are, there's no
no,
bigotry.
but it's
There's
not
no
about the
bigotry if you
bigotry.
accept them
It's
who they are.
it's
But
not
the
about
issue in
bigotry.
sports is you can't have what is. Unfortunately, we write rules to be altruistic, David. But here is what's going to happen. We're going to come up with a rule that's supposed to be fair, and then you're going to get people who are going to abuse it.
Look,
And
everybody, that's with every rule, Stuart. Look,
100%,
look,
a
look,
hundred percent.
I
And I feel
ranted.
so sorry for those people and those athletes that are going to get caught in the bookends. And that's
Absolutely.
why I'm
And
talking
and,
about
and
this
what
with
I'm
you.
and what I'm saying here is that I'm going to the amateur level where it could be a little bit more problematic, because at the elite level it kind of could regulate itself. But at the amateur level, when we're talking about a kid,
But I
you
want to
know,
flip flop. I want to flip flop on you. An 11-year-old girl is probably stronger, or 12-year-old girl stronger, faster, and is growing more than the 11 or 12-year-old boy. And you know
could
what?
be,
Again, there is
could
a
be,
flip flop.
could
So,
be, because
so
Stuart. No,
yeah.
but Stuart, you're making a sweeping generalization, because I'll show you three boys who counter your argument, and I'll show you three girls who support your argument. We're making too many sweeping generalizations.
Correct.
What I'm trying to get at is this. I hear that, oh my God, this is another form of weaponizing by having these cisgender sports, and no, you know what, guys, listen, this isn't it. At the amateur level, this is what I'm proposing. I'm proposing keeping a cisgender roles and offering a mixed,
Well,
if it's possible. And
it's
hold on,
simple.
but
It's either
Stuart,
you have co-ed sports and then you have non-co-ed sports.
correct, correct.
And so let's take away this gender issue. Remove it. Transgender people, I don't really, it's not a part of the conversation. It's now reverted back to how do you simplify the problem? You have dominant sports, which is your genetic born, male or female, whatever the doctor slaps you on the butt and he called you. And then you got co-ed sports, which are intramural. It's both.
But
And
that's
that's the only way to do this, David,
but
to
I
not get
agree.
into the weeds of all of
But
this innuendo being spun by media.
except it's not just media. And I've seen this type of that there are transgender athletes who want to compete at a higher level. They really do. And the problem is like what is called a fair
Listen,
playing
David,
field.
I'm going to give
I,
you
I listen. I want to tell you something. I got to tell you something, and I appreciate the comment here by a doctor who's throwing it in. When you're talking team sports versus individual sports, like track and field, golf, tennis, weightlifting is not the same as a team sport. I will say that if a transgender woman, can play hockey and a hockey team, spectacular. You're one of a bunch of team members. If you're over dominating because of whatever it is, I want the league to regulate itself, not some law. Let the league regulate itself. Where I'm struggling is in the individual sports where
Yeah,
there
but
is no team
listen, we got
aspect.
30 seconds, David. A league can't listen. Leagues are making decisions in politics. That's another rant that we'll talk
No,
about
but
later.
no, no, no. But
But
Stuart,
there
but
is no easy fix, David. The bottom line is there is no easy fix, and these people, because of the media, are going to get spun as the latest news, and the problem is never going to be resolved.
Stuart,
David, it's
no, no.
simple. Co-ed
Stuart,
sports,
Stuart,
non-co-ed
no.
sports. It's the
Stuart,
only way.
Stuart, again, I'll disagree with you. And I
Huh?
don't want to throw them into like a category
Well,
again.
where's that doctor find?
There is,
What
I
is
want
the
to tell you
doctor's
something.
opinion?
The
What's
thing
his
is,
opinion?
no, no, Stuart, the thing is, what we've got going here is that today an issue that tomorrow will escalate. We're dealing with issues where there are athletes, there are changes in athletes, there are changes in society, there are changes. What we set the precedent today has an impact on tomorrow. And I
Correct.
know, but what I'm just not I'm struggling with is that the science isn't emerging to help us guide it. It is politics and media that is making this an ugly scenario, and it's time to stop it. And speaking of stopping,
It's that time, David. What is our topic on Monday?
you know what? We don't even know. We actually don't know what our topics are for next week, but folks, we're going to come back to you by Sunday. Sunday. We do it every Sunday. We put out what is the topic that
Right.
we're going to be talking about Monday. So, folks,
Exactly.
we look forward to your feedback. We love it. This is really what helps us to decide what we want to talk about and what rants we're going to go for. So, we look forward to getting your comments. Rant at therantnetwork.com, the Rant Network Facebook page. We love those comments. Send them in. Visit us at therantnetwork.com. Also, share this with your friends. We want this. We want the feedback, positive, negative, as long as it's respectful. Stuart,
Exactly. Yep.
wish everybody a good weekend.
David, I want you to have a great weekend. I think this rant, didn't go down the lanes that everyone was fearful that it was. And guys, I want you to understand if you're affected by what we're saying, we're trying to take a ground in which both sides understand or need to reflect. We're not going to take just the one side. We're going to be fair. It's got to be fair. But this is a topic that's going to be hit again. This was part one. And again, I commend, I applaud anyone that makes these life decisions. It is not easy for them. I can't imagine of what turmoil they are, and then to be faced with even more adversity in the sport in which they want to play. But in the end, we cannot write a rule that then disadvantages others. David, that was my last word.
Folks, wishing you all a great weekend. We look forward to the comments that I keep seeing on our chat. Thank you all. Have a great weekend.